My mother raised me as a single mom. Um, I was the only child, and she was very devoted and committed to me. As far as my father was concerned, the only thing that she had ever said was that he was an African exchange student, um, and he was no longer in this country. Um, I didn't know anything else about him. She never said anything negative about him. She just didn't mention him. The conversation never came up. So one day, it was before the pedophile incident, and that's why I guess I put the two things not together, but was one thing predicated because of the other. I found, getting back to the subject at hand, I found a stack of letters hidden that my mother had. They were all little small letters, and I thought, oh, this is probably so cute, little love letters, or something like that, maybe from my father, maybe from way back in the past. I don't know, but I'm going to read them. So it was a stack about that big, like I said, all tied up in twine. And so I began to read them, and literally everything just was there. My father was an African exchange student from Ghana, and he had come here to, his major was architecture. He was an architecture major. And his family, according to the letters, this is all information I got from the letters, his family had warned him about getting involved with any American women. Well, obviously he failed the test on that, but he was actually pretty committed to my mom. I don't know what her responses were, but he was willing to, in fact, according to those letters, he had actually applied to the United States Postal Service, submitted for the test because he was willing to leave his country and come here, but you had to have a job. Well, the catch-22 is you had to have a job in order to be here, and in order to be here, you had to have a job. So he had signed up for the U.S. Postal Service, actually passed the test, and was expecting to start work when they realized he wasn't an American citizen. And at that point, it was really late, and he had to go back. Well, also during the course of this reading of the letters, I found out who he was, as far as his family and so forth. And that's when I found out he was from Ghana, and that my great-great-grandfather and his brother were actually the chief builders of the Ashanti Nation. And so he named me after my great-grandfather, his great-grandfather, which my mom just, that wasn't happening because, Ose Bonsu was not American. And so that wasn't even coming into play. But his intentions was to stay. He wanted to be with her. He wanted to be with me, according to the letters. That was great to hear. That was great to find out. That I wasn't just abandoned, or, you don't know how much that can do for a child's esteem. Just to know that your parents did love you, and it wasn't the typical, slam bam, thank you ma'am situation that it was. Now, from my mother's perspective, I always assumed that, she was in love with him. But before she passed, she had said something to me that, we never really got into it, but she had said something to me about how she always hoped that I would get the chance to meet my father. And I said, for you guys to get back together too. She said, no, that was never going to happen anyway. When she met my father, it was almost like one of those game shows. Everybody thought he was cute, and it was like, who's going to win this prize? It wasn't about, like she felt so mad. It wasn't Romeo and Juliet or Snow White. None of those. It was more like the dating game. So I think he was probably more into it, according to his letters, than she was. But anyway, that's their deal. That was their story. I'm here, and that's that. But, like I said, the finding out about my heritage, finding about where I came from, that, I don't know, maybe that had a lot to do with impact on my life. Knowing that I wasn't just another mutt, that I mattered, at least to somebody. I know I matter to me, definitely matter to me. But those things are great to know. Those are really, really good to know. Oh, I do have a follow-up. I did actually meet someone from Ghana when I got to college. And I have been using that name, Ose Bonsu, the name my father gave me, as a pseudonym or an alias when I wanted to do designing on the side, and I didn't want to necessarily interfere with anything that may lead to, career building or whatever. So I was like trying to do side hustle. And he found out about it, and he asked me, did I know who that was? Who that name was. So he validated everything that my father had said in the letters. And unfortunately, that family, his family, my father's family, had gotten overthrown. And it was a new government that had taken over. In fact, that happened just the year before I met this guy in college. So, certain things would have meant to be, it was like a family update for me, but hey, life goes on. Any unusual stories you'd like to relate to me? Hey, love to hear it, love comments. I love you guys. I love your comments. I love your heartfelt love and support. But please follow, please subscribe, especially on YouTube. Talk to you soon. TikTok too. TikTok's okay. All right. Talk to you soon.